Well, I'm a bad person and should feel bad. I had some unusual activity. Had a lot of bees last night hovering around the porch light, and was kind of wondering why. I had little clusters of bees this morning, and I've been seeing unusual activity the last few days out here in this hive. Come to find out, it was dead out and being robbed. Um, yeah. So I started doing checks, which honestly, and this is why I'm a bad person and should feel bad, I hadn't really been very attentive. It's been a dry summer. There hasn't been too many resources out here. I thought the health of these hives were decent enough to survive it, but I guess this one wasn't. No telling what happened. I did go through frames. I couldn't find any super seizure cells or swarm cells or anything on the frames. It just maybe the queen absconded and just left it. Seemed like the bees that were hovering around the porch light last night were very young bees, very small bees. So might have been what was the very last of the brood, because there was hardly anything in here except in the super. The super did have some honey left that they were robbing out, and more on that later. I had popped this hive open, and I could tell that this hive is pretty full. They look to be starting to store some honey in the top there. We've had some rain. There is a little bit more out there. I do see bees coming back with pollen. Now, what's interesting about these guys, it's very interesting. I noticed this a while ago. It's not like I was ignoring them completely. I'd come out and take a look at them. But look at that propolis barrier under there. That is crazy. So I think these guys are doing okay. I think they're pretty healthy. So I'm not too worried about this one. And what I figured is come spring, depending on what we get here for the fall, but I'm not hopeful, but hopefully these guys will be healthy enough and bulk up come springtime, and I can start doing splits out of this one and rebuild, because I think these guys do pretty good. So this was that baby swarm. Now I put that super on top of this. It still had some honey reserves in it. I looked inside this one. They still seem to be doing decent enough, even though it's really, really small. And then, of course, when I moved this honey super over, I started to see possibly maybe what could have been some robber activity. So I quickly put a robber screen up and threw a wet towel on top, that old school wet towel deal, and everything died down again. So hopefully these guys will keep going with a little bit more resources in them, and then maybe we might get something to bloom out here before winter comes. Now, I didn't get to everything. The 8 frame was also completely empty and robbed out, and wax moth was already starting to set in. Chased a bunch of moth out and everything, so I plugged it all up and threw some mothball in it to kill any more wax ball larva or anything that was in there. And just I'm gonna pickle up both of those sets of boxes, hold them for the winter, and hopefully build up in the spring, and keep a better eye on these last 2 colonies. And make sure they survive the winter. I got one good candy board screen, and I'll make a second one before the winter and load up some candy board and all that fun stuff before the winter comes. But I mean, we got a few more months. You can see the clouds behind me. We've had rain on and off, thunderstorms, all sorts of stuff. Unfortunately, there's some horrible mudslides not too far away from me that was doing quite a bit of property damage. I didn't hear of any injury or loss of life, but well, actually, there was one up in Barstow. That's true. It was a young child got swept away in a car. So yeah, I mean, the rain, good thing. We might be able to get some blossoms going before too soon, before winter sets in. But then again, these heavy thunderstorms that come across the high desert and mountain ranges do and can and will and do cause destruction. But yeah, it's been a while that I've posted anything. There just wasn't really all that much going on. I thought I was keeping an eye on them. I had been putting out some doing some internal feeding that I did on that small swarm. But everything that I was seeing on those two hives, they just seemed normal. I didn't really crack into them. I didn't, suit up or anything. So I was just kind of leaving them alone, but I left them alone to their demise. Oh well, live and learn. All right. That's about it.